Yeah, regardless of the scenario that, whether we have a game, whether we have a short week with the trade line dead coming up or trade line deadline coming up, always constant communication with Howie about everything. We find time to do the things that are necessary to help the team win, help the team get better, whatever it may be. Obviously, this week's very important for us as far as our self-scout and identifying some different things. And so, always going to be a busy week. But I wouldn't say, because we don't have a game this upcoming week, it's any different because you just find the time to do the things necessary to help get better and help the team win.
Thanks. We'll go to John McMullen and then Ed Kratz.
Hi, Nick. N'Kobe Dean, I wanted to ask you yesterday, but getting him back and all he's went through, just the leadership behind the scenes, what's it been like for the team to get him back and contributing?
Yeah, always great to have him on the field. Guys love playing with and for N'Kobe. So love that group, that linebacker group that we have. It's great to have him back on the field contributing. Obviously, he's been very important for us for the past 4 years, and again, works his butt off, always constantly preparing, doing all the necessary things that getting better requires, and just love having him back ready to go.
We'll go to Ed Kratz and then Jeff McLean.
Hi, Nick. Just ask you about what your messaging is to, your coaching staff and the players heading into, I guess, this week off and into the bye week.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we are completely locked in and focused on finding ways to get better, identifying issues, identifying strengths, and this is a really important week. We've benefited from this week in the past, whether that be going into the playoffs, or whether it's in the regular season. And so it's that same motivation and same hunger to do everything that we can do to help improve the football team. For players, it's about, being away and resting their bodies and taking care of their bodies, doing some extra stuff themselves. As far as their mental preparation for the rest of the season, but really, I always think that this bye week sets you up for and for some things that for the rest of the season. So it's a really important week.
We'll go to McLean here and then Dave Z.
What's up, McLean?
McLean again. What's up, Sirianni? Hey, Nick, the pin and pull blocks were key this week for you guys on bringing Saquon on Hank. What's the process of how they're put into the game plan and then carried on through the coaching staff and then down to the players and then executing? I imagine it starts with Stout seeing something. How much can you provide in terms of how that unfolds over the course of a week?
Yeah, different scheme. You always look at the defense that you're playing, their players, obviously the first thing that you look at. Then their techniques, right? Every defense has different techniques of how they play different things. I think that's one I want to, obviously be careful how much I'm saying too, as for competitive reasons. But you always look at the techniques of how they're playing, the different ways they're stopping the run, and that's how you that's your starting point of what to put in and why to put it in, right? Obviously we have the offensive line and to be able to do a lot of different schemes, but you also want to have your bread and butters, the things that you can rest your hat on in critical moments and when it's crunch time. So, but a lot of that is based off of your film study of what you're looking at. Now, the better you are on offense and the more they're worried about the run game, the more you might not see the things that you saw on film all week. But it always starts with their players, their techniques of how they play different things, how they line up formationally. Obviously, everything's always, first and foremost, what you're always thinking about your players and what they can accomplish. But we do feel like our guys are versatile, able to accomplish a lot of different things. So I think that's, I think that's what the starting point is. That's probably most I'm going to give you right there just for competitive reasons. But yeah.
We'll go to Dave and then Jeff Nyberg.
Nick, through this point in the season, how much growth have you seen from Kevin Patullo in his new job, and how much do you account for that going into a season, knowing that you have an OC who's been with you but hasn't been in that particular role?
I think he's done a good job of continuing to get better, just like our players. I think that's regardless of, every team's a new team, so there's a growth period in every, whether it's a first-time play caller or not. There's a growth period within each year for the players, for the coaches, everything. And so that's what the first weeks of the season are for, is to find ways to win, find ways to get better, and really continue, be in that continual growth mindset all the way through. So you're playing your best football in November, December, January, hopefully.
We'll go to Jeff Nyberg and then Bob Brookover.
Hey Nick, these bye weeks are obviously, time to take stock and self-evaluate. You just had one of these 2 weeks ago with the mini bye. How differently do you feel about the state of the union right now, I guess, for lack of a better term, now compared to 2 weeks ago? And what's sort of your general overall take on where you guys are right now?
Yeah, obviously super important, a Thursday night game, coming off of that. You can't do everything that you want to do in a normal bye week, just because there's less time, obviously. And so obviously this week's always important. I guess, again, we don't live week to week with results. Obviously we're paid to win football games and find ways to get better, but we don't live within a week to week. You work like crazy to get better. You work like crazy to win each football game. But then win, lose, or draw, you're on to the next, and you're doing the same thing over again. So, I think respect your question as far as, obviously after the Thursday night game, we had lost 2 in a row. Now we've won 2 in a row. We really don't think that way. We just think about how we're going to get better and find ways to win. And so that's where we are right now. It's no different. Our state, we don't have to be like everybody else, right? We actually thrive and enjoy that we don't have to live like the outside world with how each and every game goes. We just put our head down, look for ways to get better, try to find ways to win. And so that's where we are right now. And now we're into the bye week, and it's a great opportunity for growth here.
We'll go to Bob Brookover and then EJ Smith.
Hey, Nick, you guys obviously had a lot of success coming out of the bye last year. It looked like it was early, kind of early when you look at the schedule. This year, is week 9 the perfect bye week? And what have you learned about how to spend your time in the bye week since you've been in this job?
Yeah, I don't think you can ever really say, hey, this is the perfect time for a bye, right? Last year in 2024, week 4 was our perfect time for the bye, and our mindset will be, hey, this year, this is our perfect time for a bye. And when we play a Friday night game or Friday afternoon game coming up, that'll be a perfect time for a Friday night game. You handle every situation and control the things you can control. You can't control those other things. The bye week process, we just continue to evolve it. But I think that to say, hey, here's what I've learned in my past 4 years here, that really goes back. What have I learned in my time in the NFL on these bye weeks? And that's why you're just constantly in this growth mindset of everything, of how you can get better at your process. So I think that's been an evolving thing. Obviously, these last 4 or 5 years, I've been the head coach, so obviously there's more to it than when I was, just the offensive coordinator. But I think that the process of our bye week has evolved throughout the years from the past 10 years of my coaching career, and so, but really, it's really about, I think, human nature could be, hey, we don't have a game this week, have a tendency to be able to relax. And that's just not the way we think, and that's just not the way we're about to go about our business this week. We'll be about finding ways to get better, identifying issues that we know we have, identifying strengths that we know we have, and tendencies, and looking for ways to improve on those things.
We'll go to EJ and then finish with Zach Berman.
Hey, Nick, on the missed field goal at the midway through the first quarter, it seemed like there was some confusion and some frustration afterward. I'm curious, what happened on that play? What was the source of the confusion? And then what was the explanation from the officials that you got on the sideline there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that happen within a game. I'm glad you guys don't ask me every week, hey, why'd you get upset with the official here, or why were you happy with them here? Because that'd be the whole press conference. So I think that we probably just keep that between myself and the officials. Again, I just think that's the right way of doing business in the NFL. They got a hard job. We got a hard job. It's never about there's always many opportunities to win and lose football games. It's never about that. But there was, obviously there was something that we were communicating about. They made the call the best way that they thought they could. I respect that. And we move on and we play the next play.
We'll finish with Zach here.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. I saw on the team video that you gave out a cowbell after the game. What's the story behind that, and how long has that been going on?
Yeah, that was the first time I gave out a cowbell, so it hasn't really hasn't been going on in a long time. But I don't know. You guys, if the players want you, I always want to keep my conversations with the guys in house. That was something we talked about in a team meeting. If they want to share that with you, by all means, they can.
If I can then follow up, then
Yeah.
just generally on Saquon's performance, you didn't necessarily get asked that about the game. I'm sorry, after the game. What stood out about the way Saquon ran, and is that a game you saw coming this season?
Yeah, of course. Saquon, I thought that was just a matter of time. We've been close, with our run game, and it popped yesterday. And so we want to build on that and continue on that. But I think, that was just a matter of time because, we have the players up front. Saquon looks great, and he was able to find some space yesterday to get some of those explosive runs that we were used to seeing from him.